Saturday, obviously, and we feel like being treated in the kitchen this morning after that long week.
Absolutely. What better way than with a ridiculously easy but delicious recipe for chocolate chip blondies. Caroline Gray, editor of Good Food magazine, is here to show us how. Pray tell, what are chocolate chip blondies?
Blondies.
Morning.
Morning. So, yeah, we're making chocolate chip blondies. These are, they nearly look like brownies, but they're going to taste more like a chocolate chip cookie.
Okay.
So, a blondie is essentially the ingredients of a brownie, but there's no chocolate in it, except that we're adding chocolate chips. So, a blondie...
There's no chocolate except there is chocolate.
There's no chocolate except there's chocolate in this one.
Are they lighter then?
No, it's just that you'd replace cocoa powder with brown sugar.
Okay.
So there's really no chocolate unless you choose to add it in.
So we'll get going anyway.
So let's just get going, yeah. So we have, it's like you said, it's ridiculously simple.
Yeah,
so it's a
looking at
one
the
bowl type of dessert. So we
4 or
have
5 ingredients.
Yeah, and so the melted butter goes in. So this is about 100 grams of melted butter, 2 beaten eggs.
Lovely.
Yep.
Where'd you come up with this recipe?
So we were kind of just, you know, in the Easy Food office, we were just thinking we wanted to kind of do a one bowl type of tray bake.
And it's in Easy Food this month?
It's in Easy Food, and it's...
Excellent.
You know, it was just that was a little bit of vanilla
pressure
extract.
that you look like this.
Yeah, I know. They just have to look perfect. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. We're developing this recipe, just something that, you know, it has the flavor of kind of like a nice chocolate chip cookie, but it is just a one bake tray bake, so it's super easy to make.
Thanks for putting down the magazine while Caroline's talking.
Apologies. Just having a little snoop.
They just look so good in the magazine. That
That's true.
Whatever, Caroline.
Yeah.
Finish it.
Recipe.
I'm starving.
What else have we got on? So this is kind of about as dark as they're going to get. That was brown sugar I added there, which typically wouldn't go in.
Vanilla extract, brown sugar,
eggs,
butter.
Lovely. So that's the wet ingredients there.
Gorgeous.
Then into that, we are going to sift. We'll just get actually this flour in. That's just plain flour. And then into the second half of this, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. It should be half a teaspoon of salt.
Salt?
Salt.
How many grams of flour are we talking?
Flour, 180 grams of flour.
Recipe on the website.
Recipe on the
Now,
website.
Tommy did say it's supposedly ridiculously easy, and it does look that way so far.
It is. It really is. So this is just your leavening agent. So we have baking powder going in, another half a teaspoon. So that's the second half of the dry ingredients, but we're just going to start folding this part in.
Why do you put the salt in?
It's just salt really, you know, you see it in a lot of baking recipes and people tend to ignore it, but it really does, you know, it helps you kind of, I should have mentioned I used unsalted butter in this. So when you're adding salt to baking, you can control the salt that goes in. And when you are doing something sweet, especially that it has sugar, it has chocolate, the salt does...
Takes away the...
It does. It kind of just adds a nice little balance. It doesn't seem like it does much, but you shouldn't ignore it. You should add the salt.
Don't ignore the salt.
Don't ignore the salt. This is baking 101. So we're just going to keep mixing this in. You want a nice like wooden spoon.
Is this something we'll be having with a cup of tea, or is it a dessert with a dollop of ice cream?
You can do anything you want with it. It's very versatile. So kind of like I mean, it literally is. You'll see it. It looks like a pale brownie. So you can do it with, you know, a nice cup of tea. Again, it's perfect for like a bake sale. This is a great recipe that kids can make. Or if you wanted to kind of jazz it up, serve it with ice cream, like especially like hot out of the oven, and
lovely.
it's just perfect.
Can you use a mixer as well? Obviously, you're doing it all by hand, or
you can.
Is it preferable?
It's preferable to do it by hand, only because when you're working with something like this, if you overmix it, it's going to get tough.
Right.
So like cookies, brownies, you know, it comes together in no time.
Amazing. I actually thought you'd put too much flour in there.
There we go. Yeah, you're right. And then...
Yeah, because it looks like there was loads of flour.
I know.
It
all just kind of goes in. So
You've
then
got
this
dark chocolate
I've got
chips.
dark chocolate. I always use dark chocolate when I'm baking. Some people would. You can totally use milk chocolate, but it's sweet enough. And the dark... Yeah, mind that. The dark chocolate just kind of... Don't ever say I've put too much flour in there again.
You're putting a lot in, I would have thought. But it's needed.
It's needed.
Okay.
This is just... It absorbs it really well. I mean, it works. The batter would be quite sweet, and the chocolate. It's one of those things. Even when I'm making chocolate chip cookies, I always think like, oh, I've put too much chocolate chips in, but it's never enough.
And is there something else that you can add in if you like, if it takes your fancy?
Of course, yeah. You can get
dark chocolate chips. What is it? Salt, caramel.
Exactly. You could put like
chili.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean,
mint.
now these are exactly. It's a recipe that like kids would obviously love this, but you can do like a nice swirl of salted caramel kind of once you have it in the pan.
Lovely.
Definitely like if you wanted to do like walnuts or pecans. Nuts would be absolutely
use your
gorgeous in this.
imagination. So then
use
you're
your
just
imagination.
lashing it into the tray.
Lash it into the tray. get it all out here.
All right, so we're going to throw it in the oven now, and
So
you have one that you
spread it
made
out.
earlier.
And that
I have one that I made earlier.
Looks like you're spreading it pretty thin. Again, I'm not questioning you, but I presume it rises then.
It does. The baking
Yeah, you
powder
have
is
the
going to
baking
help it rise a bit.
right.
So you do. This is kind of a nice. You want the big rectangular tin, and you could use a smaller tin, but it's just going to be thicker.
So how long does it go in for?
So 180 degrees. For about 18 to 22 minutes.
Okay.
Now I have one that's
Et voila.
already cooked, slightly cooled, and
Do you
sliced.
let it cool down before you slice into it?
You would, yeah, just enough so you can get it out of the pan. But you don't need them to be
Shall we have a taste?
Lovely.
Have a taste.
I'd say they're very
good.
Moorish. Quite sociable. Like,
Exactly.
cut them
You
up
can
and throw them
kinda
out when you're having people up for a cup of
Exactly.
tea.
You could top
Nice.
it with a little bit of powdered
Gorgeous.
sugar or icing sugar if you want, but
So
they're good to
we're
go.
starting with dessert, and later on we'll have a main course.
Yeah, because why not?
Thank you so much, Caroline. These look gorgeous. Now, still to come, legendary author Jennifer Johnston is here to talk about the Beatna Festival for older people.
But after the break, it's Grand National Day and we'll be crossing back live to Aintree. Cup of tea would be
Excellent.
lovely, thanks.